Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the two noble kinsmen, and we get to hear from the wooer in Act 4, Scene 1. Now, the wooer is supposed to be wooing the jailer's daughter. He doesn't actually get to have a name, nor does the jailer, nor does the jailer's daughter, or, as we're going to meet later in the scene, nor does the jailer's brother, and we already met the jailer's two friends, who don't have names either. So, yay, yay. Anyway, the wooer has caught up with the jailer and his friends, who were talking about the fact that the jailer has actually been pardoned. He's not being held responsible for Palamon's escape because Palamon admitted that it was the jailer's daughter who helped him escape, but the daughter has also been pardoned for this, so nobody's going to be dying for Palamon's escape anytime soon. But then the wooer comes in and asks them all if they have seen the jailer's daughter recently, and the jailer's like, I saw her and she was, maybe talking a little weird or something like that. And the wooer's like, yeah, she's not well. And in yesterday's monologue, he shared with all of them that he had heard some singing and went down by the river and saw her through the bushes singing. And the jailer's like, well, but what was she singing? And he's like, well, mostly she was singing about Palamon, oh, Palamon, oh, Palamon. And the jailer's like, oh, my goodness. And then the wooer says, now also keep in mind at the very beginning of this speech, it is the wooer talking, but he's imitating her. So it's going to start off a little weird. But anyway, so the wooer responds, quoting the jailer's daughter, saying, his shackles will betray him, he'll be taken. And what shall I do then? I'll bring a bevy, 100 black-eyed maids that love as I do, with chaplets on their heads of daffodils, with cherry lips and cheeks of damask roses, and all will dance an antic for the Duke and beg his pardon. Then she talked of you, sir, that you must lose your head tomorrow morning, and she must gather flowers to bury you, and see the housemaid handsome. Then she sung nothing but willow, 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 and between ever was Palamon, fair Palamon, and Palamon was a tall young man. The place was knee-deep where she sat, her careless tresses a reek of bulrush rounded. About her stuck 1,000 freshwater flowers of several colors that methought she appeared like the fair nymph that feeds the lake with waters, or as Iris, newly dropped down from heaven. Rings she made of rushes that grew by, and to 'em spoke the prettiest posies. Thus our true love's tied, this you may lose, not me. And many a one. And then she wept, and sung again, and sighed, and with the same breath smiled and kissed her hand. So, is anybody else getting Ophelia vibes from what the jailer's daughter is going through here? She's not doing well. So she was originally singing, she's singing about, poor Palamon, and he's going to be discovered, and then he's going to be killed. And then she also is still talking to herself about how her father is going to be killed because Palamon escaped. And then she's just like, she's sitting by the banks of the river, potentially partway in the river, surrounded by flowers, and she's making like little rings out of the flowers and out of branches and stuff like that, and she's probably thinking that they're like wedding rings, saying like, oh, now you join us and you might lose the ring but you'll never lose me, that kind of a thing. And she's not doing particularly well. She's not in a really good mental state. And the jailer's like, oh my goodness, like what? And the wooer's like, yeah, and then, I saw her doing all this stuff, so I went to try to get her, but as soon as she saw me, she jumped into the river. But I saved her and brought her back out onto land, but then she wriggled away from me, and she ran faster than I could get her, and I saw some other people get her, one of whom was your brother, so I just let them take care of her, and I came to find you. And the jailer's like, oh my goodness. At which point, the jailer's brother comes in with the jailer's daughter and a few other people, and the scene rivals Ophelia in Hamlet, where she's just sort of talking nonsense and talking about flowers and asking people if they've met Palamon, because isn't he a wonderful gentleman? And hey, don't you have a sister? And oh, by the way, you have a ship, and isn't that northward? Let's sail north to the woods where Palamon is waiting for me, and all this kind of stuff. And all the guys are like, what on earth is she talking about? Like, we need to get her somewhere safe. And when she decides that she's on a ship and they need to sail northwards to get to the woods where Palamon is waiting for her, they're all like, okay. And she wanders off singing, and they all decide that they will just follow her and play along, hoping that eventually they can get her somewhere safe. So yeah, that's the end of Act 4, Scene 1. So poor jailer's daughter. I hope you feel for her at this point, and you start to wonder if she's gonna be able to reel it back, because we all know what the ending was for Ophelia. But of course, when the jailer's daughter throws herself into the river, the wooer is there to save her. So maybe she'll be able to make a comeback. I don't know. What do you think? Leave me your comments. But anyway, yeah, so that's the end of Act 4, Scene 1. We've got a bit left to go in this play, and some nice big monologues still to come. So come on back tomorrow for more, because there's still a lot. I mean, that's just checking in with the jailer and his daughter side of thing. We still have Palamon and Arcite who need to push each other into a pole. We've got that whole thing that we need to get through. So I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.